my name's Tami Egonu. I'm going to be reading chapters 1 and 2 from my novel, A Rhapsody of Dreams. Chapter 1. How is it possible that today can be the same as yesterday, which has a knack for being exactly the same as tomorrow? This was a question Tyler Lamoth again asked himself as he stared out of his office window. In fact, he was bored of asking the same question. Beyond the dirty glass stained from rain and pollution, the sky was nursing a cold and dripped its sickness over London. August, and it looked like it could have been any day in winter. His head felt like a time bomb, ticking away the seconds until detonation. Every day it got steadily worse. His deep blue tie was like a noose around his neck, and he felt life suffocating the hell out of him. Why did it seem that nothing was changing? He had tried everything he could to go forwards, and for every step it was as if he took the same amount backwards. All he wanted was to be able to breathe, to open the door to his life instead of feeling hemmed in. Tyler wondered what he was doing wrong, why nothing much changed in the way he wanted it to. Sat at his desk, he often sought freedom inside his mind, and just as often his frustration swelled into burgeoning anger so that he strained to rein it in. Though rein it in he must, for intentional bumps into strangers and a snapped word at a colleague was not his bag. He saw too many people, just as frustrated for whatever reasons, vent their misdirected anger onto others. No, he wanted to pour such energy into something positive. Tyler thought of all those people living wonderful lives, and to him wonderful meant having financial freedom. It annoyed him greatly that others were enjoying life how it should be, not shackled to a monthly wage, and such envy annoyed him more. Almost everyone he knew strived for the same thing. Many sought it through lottery tickets, which he almost always forgot to buy. Tyler didn't know how he would attain his fortune, but what he did know was that he couldn't spend another day in the prison of work. He wanted so much more from life and knew he had to give something in order to make it happen, though what that something was remained elusive to him. Great with other people's finance, he was however no businessman and was certainly not an entrepreneur, so wars broke out within him and left him shell-shocked. Tyler imagined travelling the world and living in countries where he did not understand the language, but would endeavour to learn enough to get by. He wanted to buy a house abroad and be independent and free from the crap that mundane living dictated. It all sounded great in his head, but reality mocked him, for it cried out that he would spend another 30 years living a boring life of little interest to himself or anyone else. What Tyler knew was safe, but safe was holding him back. Fear had long ago wrapped itself like a snake around him, so that always it held him back or else crushed him, lest he give serious consideration to leaving his job, the reality of having no money marring any chance of jumping with risk into an unknown future. Curling his large, slender hands into fists, Tyler did not have an addiction to nicotine and had no inclination to attain one as he watched his friend Harry leave the office for a sneaky cigarette. Tyler was happy not to have an addictive personality, otherwise alcohol might have been a problem too. Many of his colleagues sought solace in drinks after work and not just on a Friday. His daily routine Monday to Friday was tedious to the point of depressing. Every morning of the week he awoke at 5:45 a.m, was showered and shaved by 6 a.m, dressed by 6:10 a.m, and out of the front door by 6:15 a.m. He caught the 6:27 a.m. train into London Bridge, leaving so early usually guaranteed him a seat, and then took the tube to Monument Station and was at his desk by 8 a.m. Breakfast always consisted of a cup of black coffee, which he drank at the machine as no liquids were allowed near the working environment. He had 3 of these by the time 12 p.m. came calling, when he would grab a sandwich from the staff canteen. Very rarely did he take his full hour. It was not because he loved his work, in fact he did nothing but fantasise about leaving. It was simply a distraction, a means to an end, until his real life began, or so he always lulled himself into believing. At 6 p.m. he would leave work and 3 times a week devoted 2 hours to either the gym or swimming, and spent the other nights riding the train straight back home. Weekends were spent with his tandoori-tanned girlfriend Lorna, an attractive and intelligent woman, though a little too much princess if he was honest. Lorna always thought she was right, which grated Tyler's tolerance no end, and never seemed grateful for the many things he did for her, so that his little gestures of compromise and romance began to dwindle, leaving him with many doubts. Even their taste in music conflicted. His eclectic collection included world music, jazz, blues and soul, whilst hers consisted of classical and opera. Tyler thought that alone should have given him a clue to their incompatibility. Lorna's motivational inspirations in life were money, fake tans and plastic surgery, the three being so obsessively entwined. Having had her eyes, nose and breasts done, Lorna obsessed over fat removal and was booked in to have a tummy tuck. Anything to do with knives cutting flesh made Tyler feel sick, and he had been most chagrined when she casually told him that more men were having their penises enlarged, as if hinting at his sacred manhood, which he thought an adequate size. Whilst he earned a decent wage for a 31-year-old, at 28 Lorna earned considerably more as a contracted accountant. They were comfortable being in one another's company, but Tyler liked uncomfortable with his worn-in trainers, and besides she no longer even resembled the girl he was initially attracted to. Like many other things in his life, Tyler was dissatisfied with his love life. One of his many daydreams involved ending the 4-year relationship, but reality had yet to echo the desire, and so it went on and on, as did the mundane ritual of his life. He glanced at the computer screen and winced inwardly. A report was pending and he was in exactly the right mood to just give in his notice. And do what? Since he left university, he had been involved in the banking industry as an advisor, and for the last few years had committed himself to a news agency writing online newsletters for financial customers. Tyler kept hitting brick walls whenever he considered what other sensible direction to go in. He had seen and heard too many lies to stomach any more manipulation. Right then, so I will leave here and dive into... There was that brick wall again, and so he diverted his attention to writing stories instead. He had written one film script and kept promising himself that he would start a new one as soon as he had enough time. Except it was not that easy. His shredding machine had been kept busy with the rejection slips and letters. It was the creation of new mouths through which he could express interesting personalities and situations that he enjoyed, though the idea of that all-elusive second thriller had remained just that. Delving into the deep crevices of his mind stimulated him, and he imagined writing would be a great way to make a living, though he had once read or heard somewhere that 95% of writers struggled for success and had day jobs. If he was honest about it, Tyler knew nothing incredibly exciting had imploded into his world, and therefore he had nothing worth writing about, or at least not anything different or interesting. Life seemed mapped out, and if he did not jump off course soon, he feared another 10 years would pass, and still he would be asking the same questions. I'm tired of conforming, I'm tired of being told what shoes to wear, where to put the creases in my trousers. I'm sick of being told I should feel lucky to have this job. Man, I can't even have a bottle of water on my desk. Why? Who is it going to offend apart from the control freaks? I'm tired of the backstabbing of false smiles, or the fakery just to wring money out of someone with a handshake. I'm tired of being monitored like I was a machine, so what do I do? How do I get out? At times the office was so quiet that he imagined he could hear thoughts alone, though even they did not excite him or entice him into further investigation. From where he sat in a corner, Tyler could see a dozen computer screens and saw 2 colleagues looking on the internet. He did not care. He did the same himself, and often. The rumour was fast spreading that even this little luxury was going to become obsolete. The powers above had decided to strip any spark of light that offered the workforce even a few minutes' respite from the tedium. Only channelled and vetted news from channelled and vetted sources would be available from the internet. Another reminder appeared on the screen. Tyler looked at it, then pressed the snooze button, which sent it away for another 15 minutes. The office had lapsed into deathly silence again, so that the air conditioning could be heard wearing away. The bleat of a phone broke into the quiet. Someone answered and spoke loudly with display of self-importance. The time on his screen showed 15:54. Resting his head against the shielding hand, Tyler closed his eyes briefly as pressure continued to press down inside his skull, and he imagined his brain being crushed into pulp. It never usually hurt so bad. His patience was running out. That was wrong. It had run out ages ago, and he had to do everything he could not to shout out his frustration. But used to smiling on the outside, Tyler carried on ripping down inner walls. Just breathe deeply, yes, that's it, in, out, you know how. And think of leaving, freedom, escape, yes, escape. Opening his eyes, Tyler smiled as he stared down past his feet to the roof of the building in which he worked. Drifting slowly upwards, he looked up and saw he was holding on to an enormous bright orange balloon. His feet dangled freely and he watched the city recede blissfully away. People hurried this way and that in the rain beneath dark and colourful umbrellas. The traffic was hardly moving. Landmark buildings, new and historical, started to reduce in stature, and soon rooftops began to disappear completely when the balloon took him through depressed clouds. Tyler loved when his daydreams kidnapped him, the sense of abandon, the absolute. Eventually breaking free, he floated gently above the candy floss land that extended to every corner as far as he could see. Gifted with a brilliant blue sky and dazzling sun, the now luminous balloon was even more striking, and still upwards they travelled in unison. Noticing the balloon was not as plump as it was only a moment before, Tyler knew that time was fast running out. "Take me up further than you've ever taken anyone before," he asked, and it obliged willingly until soon he could see the curvature of the earth. Breathing in the adventure and beauty, he knew it was only a matter of seconds before the balloon got ready to burst. And then a strange thing began to happen. Blinking rapidly, Tyler watched as hundreds of balloons began to appear from the thick veil of clouds, and attached were people, their expressions childlike, as they marvelled at the magic. And still more came into view until there were thousands holding on to a rainbow selection of balloons, each person seeking their own escape from a mundane life. Ahead of them all, Tyler continued upwards until he was passing through the Earth's atmosphere, from where he could now see hundreds of thousands of balloons like tiny dots. And as the colours spread like watercolours on a sheet of paper, Tyler howled with excitement when he finally saw the magnificence of space. "Tyler! Tyler! Hey, Tyler!" Fingers clicked, the balloon burst loudly and he plummeted immediately back to Earth. Eyes snapped open. Tyler waited for the face above him to focus, and then he grinned mischievously. "Harry, my man, you nearly gave me a heart attack." "Yeah, well, the crow will eat your heart if she catches you with Z's coming out of your mouth." A tall, lanky young man with shoulder-length red hair smiled down at him. Keeping a lookout, Harry rolled an empty chair from the next desk, sat down, stretched out long legs, and began to talk about the latest cricket results. As he listened with half interest, Tyler remembered his daydream and how gloriously real it had been. If only he had been given a little more time to discover his ultimate quest. As a child, he spent countless hours staring at the stars and planets through his telescope, but never saw a UFO. Which was not to say he did not believe they existed, because he did. He was certain the universe and beyond was filled with different forms of creative life and questions probably never to be answered. There was always a strangely familiar connection to some faraway place that he always failed to find through the lens. His boyhood naivety always led him to believe that just because he could not see it, it did not mean it did not exist, and the same belief was carried within him still. Something was burning in his chest, a desire to be set free, to run out and leave his life behind. This was dangerous. It had never got this bad before. "We're being bloody pummeled, and so is India. I tell you, mate, it was like watching paint dry. First innings, all out." Tyler could see Harry's lips moving, but the sound was gone. All he could hear was his own heart beating in his ears. Sweating, he started to fidget as the sensation of waiting for a train to hit him head-on continued, and he suddenly realised more acutely than ever before how absolutely pointless his life was. "I've got to get out." "What, mate? We've got a meeting in 45 minutes. "No, I've got to go right now," and he did. Tyler pushed back his chair, stood up, lifted his jacket from over the back of it, grabbed his briefcase, and nearly sprinted out of the office. "What should I tell the crow?" shouted Harry as people looked up from their screens with mild interest. "Tell her I've gone to get my life back." That's chapter 1. Chapter 2 will come next. Thank you.